God bless you, geometry students. It's been quite a while since I've made a video for you, but I think I'd like to resume, particularly in some of these lessons where the concepts are more challenging and you'll be able to get another opportunity to learn it and to replay, and God helping us that you'll be able to understand much better what's going on. So may God guide us as we start now. I'm going to start with the Trinity of Right triangles. And as I told you before, this is because we've got an overall right triangle here, triangle GOL, overall right triangle. So you always look for this right angle here, and also look for the right angle symbol right here. So you're going to have not only this one, but this one and the overall being three right triangles. They're going to be all right or righteous, and they're all similar to each other. Okay, symbolic of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. Now there are three equations governing the relationship between the altitude, this is the altitude, and the various segments, whether it's a leg, this is an overall leg, or this one. And we have C here, which is the overall distance, or the overall hypotenuse, I should say, of the right triangle. Okay, so that's our C. So these are the three equations, and you're going to have to learn these and discern properly when to apply each. Here is the first one. H squared is x times y. So if you know x and y, you can find h. A squared is c times x, and b squared, which is the other leg of the overall right triangle, is equal to c, which is the hypotenuse of the overall triangle, times the segment of the hypotenuse, which is next to the b. And I'd like you to clearly see that. And I should point out here that a squared, which has to do with this leg, is going to be c times the segment of the hypotenuse, which is adjacent to the a in question. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples here. I've got three on the other page. I thought I'd add EP4, page EP14 for you, number 22 and 23. Let's go to the other page. I've got a few already drawn on there. Sorry about this. This is page 448 on that worksheet I gave you, 13, 14, and 18. And I think this will help. So let's go ahead and do number 13 first. Here's number 13. We want to find x, which is one of the legs of the overall triangle. X. They give us this segment of the hypotenuse and the other. So we have to determine which formula to use. I'll just rewrite them here for convenience. We have h squared is equal to x times y. A squared, which has to do with one of the overall legs, is c times x. B squared is equal to c times y. I would like you to be thinking, which of these? Should we use the h squared formula, a squared formula, or the b squared formula? Well, as I've told you before, we're going to use a formula where we know two of the three variables. So we're really not looking for this, and this would be the altitude. So we can eliminate or bypass this first one. We're looking for a leg, so that's the formula which we should be looking at, either this one or this one. And you say, well, should it be A or B? And really, it doesn't matter seriously, except that when you apply it, you have to apply it correctly. So if I use this as my leg, I'd have to say x squared is going to be equal to c. I'm trusting that you can see that it's a whole hypotenuse. That's the C. So the C here would be 5 plus 4. C times y, and the y is going to be the segment of the hypotenuse which is adjacent to the leg in question. So it's going to be times 5. So we work that out, and we get 9 times 5. So x squared is going to be 45, if you like, and x would be the square root of 45, or I'm going to write it back as 9 times 5 since 9 is a perfect square. So our answer here would be square root of 9, which is 3, times square root of 5, which is a prime number. We can leave it like that. Or you could do square root of 5 times 3 and work that out as a decimal. Alright? Let's look at another one which is similar to this one, and this will be number 18. So why would that be similar? Because here again we're not trying to find the altitude. We're looking for a leg of the overall triangle, and so we have to determine which of these three formulas we'd be using. And I trust with me you'd eliminate the first one. We would not use this, but we'd use one of these having to do with the leg. So x squared is equal to, it's going to be equal to the hypotenuse of the overall triangle. So you have to be careful here. It's going to be the whole thing. Hypotenuse is going to be 8 times the segment of the hypotenuse which is next to the leg in question. So what's this going to be? Well, if we know the overall is 8, this is 2. I'm sure you can figure out that this is 8 minus 2, which is going to be 6. That's not 6, that is 6. Alright, so here we have it. X squared is equal to 8 times 6 is 48, or x would be the square root of 48. You can work that out. This is the same as a couple of ways of doing it. You could do the square root of 48, or you could work it out as I've shown you. Simple way of doing it. 2 times 12, 2 times 6, and finally 2 times 3. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 2's and a 3. So that would be the square root of 1, 2, 3, 4 2's and a 3. And you know, each pair of 2 would be like the square root of 4. So we'd have square root of 4, which is 2. Here's another square root of 4, another 2, and then 3 doesn't have a partner, so it stays in the box like this. So this becomes 4 square root of 3. That would be the answer for that. Another way of getting the answer would be the square root of 3 times 4 in your calculator, and you could report that as a decimal. Finally, on this page we've got altitude. We seek this altitude right now, and they give us the two segments that make up the overall hypotenuse. So we'd go and say which of these formulas would we use in order to have one variable that we don't know and we know two, and this one would be the obvious one. H squared in this case would be x squared. X and y would be 4 and 8. So you'd write for the setup x squared is equal to 4 times 8. In this case we would have square root of 4 times 8, or x would be the geometric mean between 4 and 8. I still want you to hear that term because it's pretty simple. It's just the square root of the product is what the geometric mean is. Okay? You can actually simplify this as follows. Square root of 4 and 8, you know, is the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. That's 8 right here. And working this out, square root of 4 would be a 2. Square root of this other 4 would be another 2. And then we've got a square root of 2 left by itself, by its own lonely self under the box. So here we go. 2 times 2 is 4. And then square root of 2 is left by itself. Alright? So that would be those 3. And let me take a look and see if I could do a couple others for you on the other page. I have number 22 and number 26. Here's number 22. You're going to have to give me a little time to draw it. Number 22 looks something like this. That's the overall hypotenuse. And here we have one of the overall legs. Here we're going to have another of the overall legs. Then right here would be our altitude. We have a right angle here, right angle right here. And here's what we're given. We're given this segment of the hypotenuse, the overall hypotenuse is 5. They'd like us to find x, and they're giving us that the altitude is 5. So here we'll have to discern properly which formula to use, and I'm sure by now you're just saying h squared equals x times y, h squared equals x times y, and that's exactly right. It would be 5 squared equals this times this, which would be 5x. So we have 25 is 5x, and when we divide both sides by 5, we get x equals 5. Let's take a look at one more, number 26. And number 26 looks like this. Here's the overall, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I'll do a little bit better on that drawing. I'm going to draw a couple, well, let me draw the vertical segment first, like this. And there's a horizontal portion which goes like this. Next, we're going to do the overall hypotenuse, which looks like this. Then I'll come with the altitude. Actually, I'm kind of glad I'm drawing it for you so I can get you familiar with the different segments here. And this will be a right angle right here, and I have another right angle of the overall triangle right here. And here's what we're given on 26. Given x, which is the overall hypotenuse. What else we're given? We're given 7, segment of the hypotenuse there, and we're given 9, which is one of the overall legs of the original right triangle. So what is our setup going to be? Which of these 3 formulas we're going to use? It's always going to be a decision between these 3 formulas. So you can see, I trust, that we're going to be dealing with a leg of the overall triangle, so it's going to be 9 squared is equal to C, which is the overall, if you like, that would be the C, times the segment of the hypotenuse adjacent to that leg in question. So it'd be times 7. So here we have 9 squared is 81, equal to 7x. We divide both sides by 7, and we get x equals 81 over 7, which would be like this. 7 goes into 8 once, Bring down a 1. 7 goes into 11. It's going to be once again. Subtract 4. So my answer is going to be 11 and 4/7. So X would be 11 and 4/7.